Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy DLloyd, and thank you guys for coming into the live stream, man. We wanted to talk about some stuff that happened over the weekend. I figured why not try to have it a little bit more in a live stream type of format, so you guys could hit me up in the comment section. We could talk about some of these trade rumors, because for the Lakers, some trade rumors definitely popped up, especially over the weekend. Now, I covered last week about Gallinari, how the Lakers could potentially be trying to target him because he's a big who could stretch the floor and he could provide much needed shooting for the Los Angeles Lakers. But since then, we had not one but 2 point guards show up. So I want to give you guys my opinion, at least where I'm at when it comes to both of these point guards. And then, like I said, you guys let me know in the comment section if you're watching live or post if you're watching after. What do you guys think about the potential trade? So the first one is, of course, Chris Paul. Chris Paul's name popped up, and we know the relationship, right, with the Lakers and Chris Paul, going back to when the Lakers tried to get Chris Paul back in 2013. Then, of course, that trade was blocked. He ended up going to the Clippers, and we never got Chris Paul. But it looks like the Lakers could be looking at trying to get him again, right? Teaming up with LeBron James. I think Chris Paul, what he adds, right? Because you're looking at the Lakers, you're looking at Rajon Rondo. He was very valuable for the Lakers, right? Especially having a guy who could handle the rock, who could still orchestrate an offense coming off of the bench. That is where he was his most valuable. Having a guy like Chris Paul, obviously he's not going to come off the bench. He's going to start. So he's going to play alongside LeBron James even more. But we know Chris Paul can orchestrate an offense. We know Chris Paul can space the floor. He can shoot. He could defend. He could do a lot of things for you. You do have to worry about injuries at times with Chris Paul, but he does a lot of stuff for you. So the Lakers, I think, looking at Chris Paul is really good. I mean, in terms of, I think as a player that they could realistically get, because the Thunder are even though they are a good team, they're essentially still in a rebuild situation. As we have they should get Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin, I think that's going to be tough just because obviously the cap space, and then what does he provide, right? With Chris Paul, yes, he kills your cap situation. And the reason why Chris Paul, I think you do hesitate a little bit, is purely because of cap space. You're going to go over the luxury tax with Chris Paul. Now, we've seen the Lakers historically, go after or pay the luxury tax, but I'm not sure they do that. Devin Freeman says too much money for CP3. Unfortunately, rather have Dragic, Rose, Augustine, or even Zach LaVine. Rose is another guy that we're definitely about to talk about, man. I do think the Derrick Rose situation could work, and I think Derrick Rose will be a great fit for the Lakers. But like I said, Chris Paul, you see the reasonings. You see what he can provide on the court. Like I said, the cap space is going to be huge. Now, regarding the cap space, you've seen Rajon Rondo. He's more than likely going to decline that player option. Now, do you think he will come back in and sign with the Lakers? That's a possibility. That's definitely a possibility that he could return to the Lakers, but he's going to see what his value is on the market. He definitely is going to want more than the $5 million he was making this year. Do you think AD will take a pay cut? No. I think AD is getting the max. If it is, it's going to be so little. But I think I think he's going to take the max, especially with the climate now. We don't know where the salary cap is going to go. We're assuming the salary cap is going to come down. So if the salary cap is going to come down, he might go ahead and take an extra couple years. That might help the Lakers out. So maybe you are looking at that 3-year deal. He gets some security. He's going to make that money, or he could bet on maybe the NBA making more money the upcoming season. So he takes a 1-year deal, 1+1 with the player option, opts out, then he can sign for a little bit more money in the following offseason. What can they offer for CP3? Well, you're looking at young pieces, right? Because the Thunder, they're going to try to rebuild. You're going to look at a Kyle Kuzma potentially, even maybe an Alex Caruso, who I don't think is going to have that much value. I do think those are kind of the key pieces you're going to look at. And, of course, draft picks, what's ever left of them for the Lakers, because they have been basically tapped out. Who do you think the Lakers would trade for Derrick Rose? Same type of scenario, right? It's going to be a Kyle Kuzma, who's going to be a younger player that, the Pistons will feel could maybe come in, provide some scoring. Now, with Kyle Kuzma, his value is going to be weird. And I'm interested to see how teams value him this offseason, because we seen him across the board, right? Stats drop, but we knew that was going to happen bringing in Anthony Davis now coming off of the bench because Kuzma got used to kind of starting a little bit. And when he was averaging the 18 points a game, he was a starter. Those obviously was going to come down. So having that compiled with, he just didn't shoot very well from the field, right? 42%, I believe it was, from the field this season, in the low 30s from three-point line this season. So it's going to be interesting to see how teams value him because we've seen him as a starter and as a player coming off the bench, a much better proposition as a starter. So we'll see, like I said, how teams value him. If you were the Lakers GM, would you trade Kuzma? Who would you trade Kuzma for? It's going to be one of these guards. It'll be a Derrick Rose. It'll be a Chris Paul because you're looking at in the next 2 or 3 years, how many championships can we win? If you're going to trade Kuzma, it has to be for that reason. You're not going to get a younger guy who's going to give you more potential than Kyle Kuzma because nobody's going to trade a younger guy for a Kyle Kuzma. So it will purely be for a veteran player to try to win and try to win right now. I think the Lakers need to think about salary cap. Cannot buy a championship. I think that I understand. I think where the Lakers are, they're not going to be able to get salary cap. Paying AD and LeBron right there is that's it. I mean, that's really it. That's where all your money's going to go because you're going to want KCP back. KCP is going to want a pay raise. So the Lakers aren't going to have salary at all, really. So the question is, do they go into the luxury? Do they pay the tax? That's the real question for the Lakers. But salary, just go try to get players. I don't think that's going to happen. I heard the Clippers are interested in D Rose. That is absolutely true. The Clippers were interested in D Rose even at the trade deadline. Now, remember, the Lakers also was interested in D Rose at the trade deadline. But at the time, that was more so the Clippers wouldn't get involved with Derrick Rose just because the Lakers like, hey, if he's going to come to LA, he's going to come here. But at the time, Derrick Rose, he was doing good for the Pistons. They didn't really want to disrupt that. And the Lakers wanted to keep their options open for the buyout market. So that's why talks kind of stalled there. But the Clippers, interested in Derrick Rose, interested, of course, in even a Rajon Rondo. They're looking for another point guard also. Chris Paul will be a great fit with the Clippers. Obviously, they had previous turmoil, but Kawhi needs a good point guard. It's pretty much Chris Paul's going to help a lot of teams. Chris Paul's trying to win. He's at that age. He's literally trying to win a championship. So I do think Chris Paul will help out. I mean, even defensively, obviously he's still a capable defender. So I do think he will help out, space the floor out a little bit for those guys. Kawhi Leonard, you know how much of a monster he is, especially in the mid-range. Paul George is a catch and shoot type of shooter. So having him set up a Paul George, I think that would definitely be a good spot for him. I feel that Kyle Kuzma still has a lot of potential. I agree. I think Kuzma I think we kind of seen where his potential is. I don't think he's a bona fide, star. I think he is a very good role player. I don't think you don't want him to be your number one option. You probably don't want him to be your number two option, but a three who could come in and score, preferably if he could start for you and be your three, I think that's where you're looking at Kyle Kuzma. All these Laker rumors don't matter because the Warriors are winning the chip next year. The Warriors are definitely a team that a lot of people have to watch out for. Just obviously the Warriors are, they're bringing back firepower, right? Steph's coming back, Clay coming back. You still have Andrew Wiggins now. How's he going to fit in with Steph and Clay? And then you have that draft pick, and that draft pick has so much value. So does Andrew Wiggins. Do you trade Wiggins? Do you trade the draft pick? The Warriors have so much flexibility. Do they go get a Dwight Howard, right? Because the Warriors interested in Dwight Howard. So the Warriors definitely a team to watch for in the offseason, and then definitely a team to watch for in the regular season. Santana says, if you were Coach Vogel, would you start Derrick if the trade would go through, or play him in 6-man, have Braun start with Bradley Green? With Bradley and Green. Yeah, so obviously that depends on who comes back. If Avery Bradley comes back, I will prefer Derrick Rose to come off of the bench, right? You bring in D Rose off the bench, it looks like he's kind of comfortable doing that at times. I think that is where you will want that to work ideally. Now, it's different if it's Chris Paul. With Chris Paul, you have to start him. Derrick Rose does allow that flexibility where he can start sometimes if there's an injury to Bradley. we'll see if there's injury to Green or of course, what happens with KCP. But that's why I like Derrick Rose. Cheaper, and there's a little bit more flexibility on where you can play him. Trade Kuzma. The Lakers are getting old. This is a season. Yeah, I mean, if the Lakers going for a championship in the next 2 to 3 seasons, that's the small window that they have to work with right before reassessing. Hopefully, they hold on to Anthony Davis, but that's kind of the run we're looking at with LeBron and kind of the older players. Kuzma is really the only guy that can give you value this offseason. Because remember, the Lakers don't have a lot of guys under contract. Danny Green, we seen his value is not going to be there really at all. So I do agree that if anybody's going to go, it's definitely going to be Kuzma, man. Rody also, what's up, bro? What's going on, bro? Who do you think is going to make the move to get Bill? I don't think Bill moves interesting enough. I think Bill has a lot of value. I think there's a lot of teams that want a Bradley Beal. I think if the Wizards are going to move anybody, it's going to be John Wall. Bradley Beal's younger. Bradley Beal just expressed that he would like to stay there long term and really finish his career in Washington. Now we'll see how everything plays out. I think if anybody gets moved, it's John Wall. But with that contract and with the injury, we just haven't seen John Wall in so long. I think they're both back ultimately, man. So I don't see Beal being moved, but I do see pretty much almost every team in the league calling and doing their due diligence. I just don't see it, man. Kuzma and Green for Hield. Buddy Hield does not like, obviously he doesn't want to stay in Sacramento. So that's always an interesting one. I don't think Sacramento does that. I think they could get more for a Buddy Hield, but obviously we'll see, man. I think you should trade Kuzma, Rondo, and Green to OKC to free up your books and sign CP3 and Gallinari. That's obviously you're going to need Rondo to sign, so it'll be a sign and trade, or have him pick up that player option that I just don't think he's going to do. But something around that ballpark is definitely not bad. Bill ain't getting traded as of right now. We're just only going to trade him. Pretty much exactly what we just said. I don't think Bill right now is a realistic piece to be moved. Who do you think D Rose is a better fit for, the Clippers or the Lakers? I will go with the Lakers, even though I think D Rose could fit in really on a lot of teams. D Rose is still a guy who could make for you. You know, he could score, and he's a better jump shooter than he was basically his whole career. We've seen that now. He's definitely made the cognizant efforts to become a better shooter. So with that said, I still think he's better with the Lakers. Anytime you have a LeBron on the court, anytime you have an Anthony Davis on the court, and AD can step out. He doesn't always have to be in the paint. He could clear out driving lanes for Derrick Rose, or vice versa. You have LeBron down low. You have AD down low. You now have a wide open Derrick Rose. So I think when you look at that, I think he fits in a little bit better with the Lakers. Then, of course, you still have a Danny Green, KCP, so he can kick it out to knock down a 3. What Lakers do Flippers want? The same. Or if you're talking about who do they want at the point guard spot, yes, they're looking for the same thing. Do you think Lakers could acquire CP3 in a 3-team deal? You know how NBA gets tricky, so you can never count out a third team getting involved, especially if they can get a draft pick, if they can land something of some type of value. But yeah, you don't rule that out. D Rose is that playmaker the Lakers are missing. Yes, you have him coming off the bench. He, like I said, he could play make, he could score, he could do a lot of stuff for you, and he truly becomes your third option. He's your third offensive threat, and that's what the Lakers have kind of missed. They had the third threat was really by committee, right? Who was hot that day? Was it KCP? Was it going to be Kuzma? Was it going to be Danny Green or A.V. Bradley? It was literally by committee as to who was the third guy. Dwight Howard sometimes will be the third guy. So, you get a consistent third guy, and I think that's why the Lakers are looking there, because it helps both parties out, right? Because we know the Pistons are in the middle of a rebuild. So I definitely think it helps out both. Let's see. Outlaw, I don't think the Kings want to trade for Kuzma. I agree. Warriors are the biggest contenders for the Lakers. I think the Warriors are the biggest contender for everybody coming back. I think they're 100% healthy, going to all those finals in a row, getting somewhat of a break. I think they're going to retool and they're going to get a big, whether they draft one, whether it's Wiseman, whether they trade for somebody, whether it's Dwight Howard. They're going to get another big. They'll go along with those shooters that they have. Then you have Wiggins. I think Wiggins is going to try to prove that, he's not overpaid, which is going to be tough. It's going to be tough to prove, but I think he's going to come back this season and try to prove something. So the Warriors definitely are a team that everybody has to watch out for. Let's see. I think the Lakers should go after Derrick Rose or Fred VanVleet. He's a free agent. He has improved tremendously. Yeah. With Fred, you're going to have to worry about the Knicks. The Knicks, I think, will open up the checkbook to try to get somebody like Fred VanVleet. But I think a lot of teams are going to be interested in them. D Rose, again, another team that another player you have to acquire via trade. But, we know the Clippers don't have no draft picks either. But if you could pull off something, yes. But I think realistically for the Clippers, it will be a Fred VanVleet or maybe somebody else that we're not even really thinking about right now. I think, and I have a video on that soon, but I think that is where the Clippers are looking at. Here we go. All of a sudden, nobody gave Dwight Howard a chance. You see him bloom, and now everybody wants him. Yeah, I mean, that's what happens. I mean, he came to the team with the Lakers, right? And that was just, can you come in? Can you prove that you're not going to be any trouble in the locker room? Can you show that, you still have something to contribute? Are you okay with coming off the bench full time? And I really think Dwight Howard checked just about every box. He showed that he could still contribute when needed and when called upon, especially, when he's playing against lineups that call for a true center. Dwight Howard could still be that guy. He could still get after it. You've seen him show that he is a good teammate, which we've never seen out of Dwight Howard. So I think seeing all of that definitely gave him more life, I would say, in the NBA. So teams are going to be interested. And the question is, how much money is he going to make? Because over the last few years, we've seen the value of a true big devalue so much that they're not getting paid a lot of money. So is he looking at another vet minimum? Is he looking at the mid-level? I don't see him making more than $5 or $6 million. So that's the question. And if it comes to that, where does he think he could play and where does he think he could win a championship? I think that's what Dwight Howard looks at ultimately. What moves do you think the Lakers, in other words, your GM build a team? Guessing you're thinking, what do I think they should do in terms of moves? I think you go after a playmaking point guard. I think that's the most important. So I do look at a Derrick Rose. I do look at a Chris Paul. I think those are the best moves, the most realistic moves you can make. Gallinari is another guy who can space the floor. He's not a playmaker, but he can space the floor. That's a great one, especially if you could get back a Rajon Rondo to kind of come off the bench and Avery Bradley picks up the option. He goes ahead and plays for you at the point guard position, or the two with LeBron being the ball handler. I think those are the options the Lakers should go for. Danny Green, Kuzma, the 28th pick for Zach LaVine. I mean, if I'm the Lakers, I would do that. The Bulls, will they do that? I guess that's the question there. They should pick up Cousins again. If you're talking about the Lakers, I mean, that's a possibility, especially if you lose a Dwight Howard. I think the Lakers weren't doing things just to do it. The Lakers playing things out in advance. So when, they decided to keep Cousins around all season, ultimately, until they needed his roster space, that was to show, that goodwill. Like maybe you could come back on another mid-level or on a vet minimum deal somewhere in that price range. Boogie's going to want to get paid. But the Lakers, they that's why they did that. That's why they treated him so well. Even after, right, when they talked to the league, they were like, hey, we're going to have to release him, but can he still rehab at our facilities? The Lakers are building that relationship so they could go after a DeMarcus Cousins again. So I definitely think that's a possibility. Same thing there. Should the Lakers pursue Boogie Cousins? I think so. I think if Dwight Howard doesn't work out, I prefer DeMarcus Cousins even over a Dwight Howard. But obviously how the season played out, and then with the injuries now to DeMarcus Cousins, I think that's where they may value a Dwight Howard over Boogie. But I agree. I think Boogie is the guy that is a better player. Kuzma and Green to OKC for Schroeder and Roberson. The salaries match. Wing defender and 6-man. If OKC does that, I mean, that's not. I'm trying to think this one through, man. You get Roberson. Yes, you get that awesome wing defender, and you've seen how important defense is to the Lakers' success, right? They play D and they get out in transition. That's their bread and butter. You know, things kind of slow down for the Lakers when they have to go into the half court. Obviously, you can still get it done with AD and Braun, but the bread and butter is playing defense and getting out on the break. So, yes, Roberson, in theory, that can make sense. Dennis Schroeder, he showed he still has a lot of value. Coming off the bench, he could do a lot, right? He's your playmaker in terms of kind of almost like your Alonzo Ball, get it out ahead. He doesn't really get too many straight raw assists, but he can still make plays and he can score. So that's not terrible, but I don't know if you do that because Danny Green, yes, he struggled shooting. Historically, though, he's known to be a good shooter and he could defend. I think you give Danny Green another shot. I think you come back, do it again, and hopefully maybe it was a bubble thing because we know how mentally taxing being in the bubble was for a lot of guys. Maybe you hope that was the case. But if you can move Kuzma by himself and maybe pick up, some pieces, I think that is the better option. Do you think that Isaiah Thomas could fit with the Lakers? I think he could run the pick and roll well with AD. But yeah, he has those problems with LeBron. IT, I wouldn't bring IT in with the Lakers. I think IT definitely does deserve to be in the league. I think it's crazy that he's just sitting there as a free agent. He's going to sign a vet minimum deal somewhere. I just don't think the best fit is with the Lakers, but he can be a spark for another team. Maybe go back to Boston. Who knows, man? Do you think Kuzma and Caruso could get a deal done for D Rose? I think it's somewhere in that ballpark. It just really depends on where 100% the Pistons are in this rebuild, right? We know they're rebuilding. We know that's the thing. But where are they, right? Are they looking for picks? Are they looking for players like Kuzma? And where do they value Kuzma after this last season and the playoff run where Kuzma's value could have taken a hit, right? Did the first 2 years, did that overcome what the last year did for Kuzma? And then, of course, how much is Kuzma looking for, right? I think those are the conversations that they need to have. But that could potentially get it done. And then, obviously, what are other teams offering for Derrick Rose? I think those are going to be the major pieces. Do you think Boogie Cousins could be at least 75% player he once was? I think so. Because the thing with Boogie, he was never a physical freak, right? Like he wasn't jumping with a 35-inch vert. His game was below the rim, right? He could get down low. His hook game was good. I mean, he could rebound at times. He could space the floor for you. Great free throw shooter. So I don't think it affects him like it would a more athletic big man. So I do think if you're talking about 75%, I definitely think he get to 75% of what he was. The question is, can he get really to 90%, 100% of what he once was? I don't think 100% is in the books, in the cards. I don't think that's happening. But I think that's more what you're looking for. Let's see here. Warriors are going to have a good starting five, but the bench is really bad. I mean, those things happen. I mean, when you pay, 2-3 guys almost max type of money, you're not going to have a bench. And the only way you're going to have a bench is if you could get sleepers or you could draft really well late in first round or even in the second round. So if you're not hitting on those, it's definitely going to be hard. I still think the Warriors could sign Marc Gasol. I think that is definitely their plan B. I think they go after Dwight if they can't get it. Marc Gasol, he could space the floor for you. Could do a lot of stuff. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. The Rockets want Joel Embiid. Yeah, the Rockets. They're going to need to get a head coach first and figure out exactly with the new GM what direction they want to go with in the future. Are they going to try to ship out Westbrook? Are they going to try to build around Westbrook and Harden and then try to find a big man for cheap? They're going to have to figure that out, man. But yes, the Rockets reportedly are interested in Embiid. The question is Philly interested in moving Embiid? I don't see that happening, especially with the Rockets, because they don't have anybody of value besides Westbrook to trade. And do you want Ben Simmons and Westbrook on the team together? Do you think the Warriors will sign Dwight Howard? I think they're definitely in the running. I think they're in the running. You can't rule them out, but I'm not sure if they'll sign him over the Lakers, but we'll see. Let's see what else we have here. Do you think the Heat will go after Giannis this offseason? No, I think they wait until next offseason if they're going to go after him. But I don't think they're trading a lot of stuff to try to get him now. I think the goal and the objective is if we could beat Milwaukee and bounce them, or another team can bounce them, and Giannis maybe gets frustrated with not winning in Milwaukee, then we can get him as an unrestricted free agent. I think that's the goal of a lot of teams. I don't see trades, and I don't even think Milwaukee will trade him unless Giannis comes in and says, hey, I'm leaving after this year, trade me or let me walk for nothing. What do you think Kuzma is worth on the trade market? That's the golden question, man. That is the golden question, and I think it's going to come down from team to team. He showed that he could be a very good starter, and he could score. But coming off the bench, it didn't work this season. I'll put it that way. Granted, he wasn't healthy to start the year. It took him a while to kind of get things going. Then you came back after the layoff, started in the bubble. But it just, everything did not click with Kuzma. He had games, he had flashes. Everything did not click with Kuzma this year. So that's definitely going to slow down, I guess, the value on the market for him. Roberson can't shoot threes. Yes, he's not. He's purely to play defense. I know that was in something earlier. I know I'm trying to catch up on the comments, but yeah, he's clearly there to play defense. Lakers should pursue Chris Middleton as a third star. Yeah, but I don't think Milwaukee moves Chris Middleton. I think Jeremy Lin could be a good backup for the Lakers or even a starter. So we go back to the Jeremy Lin thing. The Lakers tried that before. Do they go back to Jeremy Lin now? I don't know. I'm not a huge believer that Lin could give you consistent minutes. I think Jeremy Lin should be in the NBA. I do think he could be on the NBA and he could contribute somewhere. I don't know how consistent he is, so I'm not sure. Who wants D Rose, man? A lot of guys, man. The Clippers, the Lakers, and I'm sure other teams are definitely in the running to try to get Derrick Rose. He could still play. Obviously, he's not MVP Rose, but he's still a very good player. So a lot of guys are going to want him. And on top of that, with the Pistons basically rebuilding, moving on from Drummond, he's a guy that could definitely be gotten with a value trade. I hope they don't let Alex Caruso go. So is what I'm thinking. I don't think Alex Caruso has a crazy, market for him. So I think he stays at least another season. Try to get Carmelo Anthony. I think Melo is staying in Portland. I think he found a home. I think he likes playing with Dame. I think McCollum, I think both of them appreciate Melo. The way they had the back even recently with the whole snub from the Denver Nuggets thing, I think he stays in Portland, and I think, they make a run at it, and it fits. I like Melo. The Lakers had their chance. They didn't do it. They didn't go after it, and I think Melo now is going to be, in Rip City for at least a little bit. Try to get Serge Ibaka, let McGee go. McGee's not going nowhere. He has a player option worth, I believe it's like $5 million. He's not going to make more than that nowhere else. He's going to pick that player option up, and he'll come back to the Lakers unless something crazy happens. I think that happens. Kuzma for Michael Beasley, no. I don't make that one at all. Lakers are pretty much running it back with this team, including DeMarcus Cousins, adding 2 to 3 guys. That's it. No telling who gets added at this point. I think that's the hope. I think the hope is to bring everybody back with a few additions. With that said, if it's a Kuzma and I can get CP3 addition, I think the Lakers go for that. If it's maybe even a Kuzma and get Derrick Rose, and I think that one's not as clear as yes, the Lakers would do it, but I do think those are like the type of additions that you're looking at when it comes to somehow, trying to revamp the roster, because you don't have the salary cap space to get a lot done. So I do think that those are the options really for the Lakers. Lakers get Gallo and Justin Holiday. Gallinari, I think, is a guy you go get. Justin Holiday. I mean, that's an option. I mean, the Justin Holiday, I have to think about that one, is an option. Gallo's a guy who is on my list of targets the Lakers should go after if able to get. A guy who can space the floor, knock down the three at a pretty good rate. I like that one a lot. Here we go. Do you think Dwight Howard is a good fit for the Warriors? I think he is. What are your thoughts? Because he is probably going to be in the starting five with Curry, Clay, Draymond, and he could try to get another ring. Yeah, I mean, for what Dwight Howard is at this point in his career, as long as he keeps that same mentality that he had with the Lakers, I think he could fit in. Be a rebounder, be a strong interior defender, defend the pick and rolls at a decent clip. We know he could tend to get in foul troubles, but he's pretty good at defending the pick and roll with certain players. I think he could fit in just fine. Grab boards, finish strong. He could fit in with either team at this point. And I think that's why there is a market for Dwight Howard again. Are we going to re-sign Markieff Morris? I think they want to. But obviously, being an unrestricted free agent, the market is going to be there. And it's really going to come down to how much money the Lakers have. And then obviously whether Markieff wants like a long-term deal or if he's cool with re-upping for another year and then going back at it. Let's see. DeMar DeRozan maybe sign and trade with Danny Green, Kuzma, first-round pick. I don't think DeMar DeRozan gives the Lakers what they're looking for in terms of a guy who could shoot. DeMar DeRozan, good player. I just don't think he fits what the Lakers are trying to do. I have confidence that the Warriors will sign Dwight Howard. What are your thoughts? I think it's between the Warriors, the Lakers. I think those are the front runners for Dwight. I don't think money's going to come into an option. I think playing time will. And can he win? I think he'd get more playing time with Golden State than he will with the Lakers. So that's why I think there is a strong chance that he could sign with Golden State. But we'll see. We'll see how the draft goes. Do they go get Wiseman or do they try to, make a trade and get another piece? So we'll see how, the beginning, I guess, of the offseason begins. But Dwight Howard is definitely in play. Who's the third star the Nets go after to put with KD and Kyrie? I don't think they go after nobody. I mean, I think you try to hold on to what you have with LeVert, maybe even with Dinwiddie. I don't think you go after, and we haven't seen them on the court all together as a unit with this team. So I don't think they make a lot of moves in the offseason. I think they just come back and try with what they have, at least first. Now, maybe if it doesn't work, trade deadline, but I think those are the guys. Let's see. Do you think the Timberwolves should trade the first pick? Depends. It depends. You look at LaMelo Ball, right, as a potential guy who I think might realistically go first, even when you're looking at the Timberwolves. And Anthony Edwards or even a Wiseman, right? You're looking at those guys as the potential. Do they fit in with what Minnesota's trying to do? That's the question. I know LaMelo Ball said he could fit in with anybody. Him and DLloyd, you have two guys who are playmakers who could shoot. Maybe you try that route. But if you could get a haul, you move that pick. I don't know if you get a haul. I don't know how many teams are willing to trade, all-stars or players that are all-star caliber to go get a LaMelo Ball right now or even Anthony Edwards right now. So I think you hold on to it and you just pick who you think you could fit into your roster the best. But it's one of those drafts with no clear-cut guys. So I think they hold on to it. But if you can move it and get somebody, go for it. Should the Lakers trade for a third star? Yes, absolutely. Because you're not going to get one in free agency, right? So if you can get one, the question is, can you get a third star? How many teams are willing to trade with the Lakers? They're going to have to be a rebuilding team. So that's why your options are limited. But if you could get one, absolutely. Should the Lakers pursue Tristan Thompson? No, I don't think he provides more than what you could get out of a DeMarcus Cousins, a Dwight Howard, even a JaVale McGee. Better rebounder than McGee, but I don't think you need to go and try to bring him in. Obviously, the contract doesn't hurt you too much. It'll expire when you can go try to get Giannis, but I don't think so. I'm sorry, guys, trying to keep up with the comments here. Jeremy Grant, if you're talking about I don't know in what context. I like Jeremy Grant, though. I do think he's a good player. Does Buddy Hield make sense for the Lakers? Yes. A guy who can knock down a 3-point shot. The Lakers desperately need guys who could consistently knock down threes. They thought they were getting that with Danny Green, KCP. Danny Green did not live up to what we expect out of Danny Green. But, if you could get a Buddy Hield, what makes this interesting is that relationship, for whatever reason, I'm not going to get to specifics with Luke Walton, Buddy Hield is not there. It's just simply not there. So Buddy Hield is a real person that could get traded realistically this offseason. I don't know if he goes to the Lakers, though. I think teams really want a guy like that. So I think they'll give up a lot for a Buddy Hield. Let's see. Lakers will get their guys at the trade deadline. Green's expired contract will be valuable. They can finesse a playoff team that needs shooting. That is Mr. Spliff Stars. That is a really good point. Danny Green, obviously, his value will go up. Whenever trade deadline, I'm used to saying February. Whenever trade deadline is in the upcoming season, his value will go up compared to now, especially if he comes out and plays well during the regular season. So that is always an option for the Lakers if they can't get, that third player now. So that is definitely something to watch out for. Let's see. If we lose Dwight, what will be some other options? If you lose Dwight Howard, obviously JaVale McGee, I don't see JaVale opting out of that player option. He's not going to make that money anywhere else. I think just purely because of a money standpoint and he likes playing for the Lakers, I think he picks that up. So you have McGee. Now you're just looking for another big man. I think it's DeMarcus Cousins if the Lakers lose out on Dwight Howard. So I think those are really the two main options. Who do the Lakers take with 28th pick? I think the 28th pick's on the block. I don't think the Lakers make a pick. I think the Lakers trade with that pick before they actually make the pick. We should definitely trade Kuzma this offseason or by the deadline. Can we get Zach LaVine or Victor Oladipo? Victor Oladipo is looking for a max deal. Zach LaVine is an option. I don't think Kuzma gets you Zach LaVine. So that's where it's rough. I think Zach LaVine could be moved. But it'll probably be to another team. I don't think it'll be to the Lakers. The Lakers will call. The Lakers are always going to do the due diligence. They will place the phone calls in. They will let everybody know, hey, we will take these guys if made available. But I think Kuzma will be moved for, like I said, a CP3, a Derrick Rose, a Gallinari. I think it'll be one of those guys who can help the Lakers win right now for sure. Celtics could be in the running for Dwight too. They're too small. The Celtics definitely could use. I mean, that's one of their Achilles heels, right? I mean, Baines is cool, but is that the guy you want? Especially, I think there'll be more of a trend towards more, I wouldn't say traditional big man because you still want them to space the floor, but I do think more teams are going to go back to having a center. I think after watching Houston go all out with small ball, I think teams realize that you do need a big, even if he's a little bit cheaper. I don't think the value in terms of prices are going to go up on these big men. I do think teams, though, are going to want a big that could, rebound, that could play good interior defense, that could defend the pick and roll, and they could grab boards. So Dwight to the Celtics is a possibility. I don't think it happens, but I do think the Celtics try to get a more traditional big. Here we go. Thoughts on a third star the Mavs could go for. So obviously the Dallas Mavericks are set up to make a run in the next few seasons. Luka, I think he established that he is legit. Definitely, man. And people like me who now, when you go back, and that's the one cool part and bad part about making your predictions online. You could go back. I wasn't a huge believer in Luka, and I said before, it's always hard to judge international players coming out of the draft because I don't know who they're going up against. It's not like when you're looking at NCAA, you know who they're playing against, so you can kind of judge and you could evaluate. I don't know a lot of the international guys, so when I'm looking at it, it's hard to kind of evaluate it, but he's shown he is definitely the real deal. I don't know if if they go out and get a third guy. I really think a part of me really believes that they are hoping that Hardaway could really be that guy, Hardaway Jr., or it could be Curry. I don't think it happens. I think they just kind of keep Luka, then obviously Porzingis. I don't think they go out and get a guy, but I think they really wanted to be Hardaway, especially with the amount of money. Lakers trade 28th pick. I agree with you there. DeMar DeRozan and Chris Paul in a buyout, not a trade. They're not trying to trade for anybody at this point. They're basically only the third option Lakers are interested in. I don't know. Do you think DeMar DeRozan gets bought out of San Antonio? I don't know if he gets bought out of San Antonio. Chris Paul could be bought out. It just depends. It depends on what they want to go for, because they also seen success with Chris Paul. So it depends on how far in. It looks like they're really going in on the rebuild. So yes, a buyout could be a possibility, and that'll be the best thing ever for the Lakers, right? But we'll see on that one, man. Do you think Taylor Horton Tucker has any potential or value? I think he has potential. I don't think he has a lot of trade value right now. I mean, anytime you have a defender with, a wingspan like that could get after it, I think he has potential to have some type of value. I don't think he ever becomes more than a role player off the bench. Like, I don't think he becomes anything more than like your 8th, at best 7th man off a bench. But that's why I don't think there's really no trade value unless he's a throwing guy that maybe a potential team could see value in. But that's where I'm at. You think DeMar DeRozan will be a good fit with Butler in Miami? Yeah, I think he fits in. I mean, that culture is going to be hard to really fit in unless you just aren't a hard worker. But DeMar DeRozan, I think he is. I think he'll get after it, and I think he will buy in. It's just, like I said, I don't know if San Antonio will buy him out. If they do, I like that fit a lot. Is the Chris Paul trade real? I mean, the talks are real. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if the Lakers are going to be able to pull off a trade, another team's going to pull off the trade, or like we just talked about a second ago, a buyout happens. But yes, it's absolutely real that there's interest from the Lakers end, and there could potentially be interest from Chris Paul if that were to happen. But obviously, we'll see how the offseason is going to take place. It's going to be a very weird offseason, but it's going to build for a lot of drama and a lot of interesting things, I would say, happening. It would make sense if the Warriors signed Dwight instead of James Wiseman. He's just a rookie. Dwight has been in the NBA for a long time. I agree. The Warriors aren't trying to build for the future, which sounds crazy. They're not trying to get a guy that maybe, and typically takes rookies 2 to 3 years. Typically, you see the biggest change in year 3 and 4. It typically takes a while for rookies to really blossom, right? So do you want to go through that adjustment period right now with the young guy Wiseman? If there's not a lot of interest in a trade, then yes, you take that chance. But if you can move that pick, get somebody who's proven, even if he is a vet, I think the Warriors, they go in that direction instead. I think that's a better direction for them. All right, guys, let me see. I completely lost my place in here, so I'm definitely going to skip around a little bit in the comments. I apologize, but I appreciate everybody for coming through. If you guys are watching this, leave this video a like, man, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Definitely helps me out a lot. Here we go. Who would you spend your mid-level exception on? I think the mid-level. Okay, a lot of it's going to depend on if the Lakers could trade and get in a playmaking point guard. I think that will influence it. If they can't, they're going to definitely go after somebody that could be a playmaker for them. If they can, then maybe they use that mid-level on a Boogie and kind of just – because Boogie wants to get paid. Maybe they try to do right by him. But that one's hard to see. We'll see, obviously, where, the values. I just don't see big man being valued that much in the offseason. What's more likely, D Rose or CP3 trade? I think the Derrick Rose one could be more likely. I think the Lakers have a lot of interest in Derrick Rose. And from the Pistons standpoint, they're just, if you could give them any type of value back that could help them in the future, I think they're all for it. Kuz for Zach LaVine. I don't think the Bulls do it. I would love it as a Lakers fan. I don't think the Bulls do it. Same thing. How do you feel about Kuz for Zach LaVine? Let's see. Go after depth or get another star. That's always a good one. Now, this is the thing with the Lakers. The Lakers positioned themselves perfectly where all of their contracts just coincidentally happen to end. I would say December 2021, but we don't know when. Next offseason, where Giannis is available, right? They went out. Obviously, they went and got Giannis's brother. That's not just because, they're planning to try to go after Giannis. Now, does he sign with the Lakers? Does he go to another team? The Heat? Does he stay? Obviously, we don't know, right? We don't know what happens. But the Lakers, I don't think, are wanting to disrupt that unless they need to disrupt that, if that makes sense. If they could, get Rondo back, get other guys back for 1 year, I think that's definitely what they do. Even Derrick Rose contract will be up. So if they could do that for 1 year and then have the flexibility of trying to go after Giannis, I think they do that. But if players start kind of forcing their hand and KCP only wants a long-term deal, Rondo wants 2 years, you go and the only way you can get Gallinari, for example, is he wants multiple years, then yeah, you go that route. Then you try to build up as much depth as possible. But I do think the Lakers are kind of playing it by ear and seeing what happens. Buddy Hield needs to go to Philadelphia or get to Philadelphia somehow. It will be a great fit. Yeah, I mean, what is the biggest Achilles heel for Philly? They need shooters. What could Buddy Hield do? He could shoot. Sacramento and Buddy Hield isn't going to work out. Him and Luke Walton don't like each other. I don't think that's going to change. So, yeah, if they could pull that off, that would definitely be a great fit. If KCP wants 10 to 12 million a year, okay, for 3 years, do the Lakers walk away from talks, I'm guessing? Yes. I don't think they give KCP a 3-year deal. I don't think the Lakers will walk away if he just wanted 10 to 12 million this year. I think they'll give him a 1-year deal at that price. His option was for $8 million. So I think they would go up to 10 to 12 million for a 1-year deal. Maybe a option. Maybe they do a 1+1. Maybe it's a team option, though. I don't think the Lakers, that goes back to, are they willing to try to keep cap space for next offseason? Or are they willing to go all in and make sure they have their team locked in now? If they're going to lock in, then yeah, I don't see them walking away for a 3-year deal. But if they're trying to keep that flexibility, which I think they want in the perfect world they keep, I don't think they go after a 3-year deal. What do you think is more likely to happen? I think we just talked about that one on Derrick Rose. I think that one's more likely to happen over a CP3 trade, but don't rule out a CP3 trade. We have to get a third option this offseason. Grant, Bill, DeRozan, or CP3. I don't think Bill gets moved. I just do not see it. Like I said, John Wall. I feel like John Wall, because the way the contracts end, is way more likely to be moved than Bradley Beal. But the reason why John Wall isn't going to get moved is because of the contract. We haven't seen John Wall because he's been hurt. We don't know what John Wall is still capable of. I think he's still going to be a very good, point guard. I think he was underrated even before, but I don't think Bradley Beal gets moved, right? You have him, you sign him to the extension. He's cheaper. He's playing at a high level. I don't think they move on. And he just expressed that he would like to stay there. So I don't think that happens. What about Gallinari? I think that's a great move. If the Lakers are able to get him, I think that is a great move. A big that can shoot, space the floor. I definitely like that. I don't know about Victor Oladipo. Oladipo, he wants the max. He just came out, said like he's looking for a max deal. That one's, I don't know. I'm with you. I don't know about Victor Oladipo. I wouldn't hate it. Depending on how much if you pay him max, I don't think I would love it either. You think KCP and Rondo resign? I think KCP comes back. I think Rondo, he's going to have some suitors. Does he go to the Clippers? Does he stay with the Lakers? Does another team now decide to offer him a little bit more? I think he can come back. It's not out of the picture. I think that one is definitely more. I think that's more up in the air for sure. Gallinari to Lakers would be nice. I agree. What do I think about Carmelo trade rumors? I think Melo stays. I mean, I don't put much. I think he absolutely stays in Portland. I think he enjoyed playing there. The city and the fans embraced him. The organization embraced him. And then obviously he enjoyed playing with Dame and with McCollum, and it's still a team that can win. And I think he likes that feeling. Is obviously he will go to a Super Bowl team if he needed, because he wants to win. He wants to play. But we've seen Melo want to, earn some type of ring, right? And actually go out there and win. The same thing with Damian Lillard. That's why he wants to stay in Portland. So having like-minded players with you and they embrace him, I think Melo is absolutely going to be in Portland next season. Never say never with the NBA. If Braun wants CP3, he'll make it happen. Yeah, obviously. If he goes into management, tells Pelinka, hey, trade everybody, bring in CP3, it's done. But like I said, I think D Rose is the more likely guy. Trade for the beard man, James Harden. That's the only guy that Houston's not going to move. Everybody from Houston is on the block except for James Harden. They will be dumb to try to trade Rose. You think the Lakers will be done to try to trade for Derrick Rose? I think Derrick Rose can still ball. I think Derrick Rose will definitely help out the Lakers, especially if you don't have a Rajon Rondo. So if you're needing that, I think that does work. If you can bring back Rondo, you might not need a Derrick Rose. D Rose deserves a ring. I agree with you, man. Why do y'all fans want overpaid players? You talking about Lakers fans? I mean, typically the Lakers are going to the Lakers don't traditionally draft all of their stars. They're going to trade for players, and typically that's how they get the trades to kind of work. The Celtics already have Taco Fall. Why get Dwight Howard for the Warriors? Like I said, I definitely think the Celtics will look at a big. I don't know if it's Dwight Howard. I think Dwight Howard's realistically between Lakers and the Warriors, unless there's a dark horse team that comes out of nowhere. But I do agree. I think it's just those two teams. KCP is too inconsistent to resign. KCP is the one that showed up in the playoffs the most of the games. KCP is that's what he's going to do. I do agree with you with the consistency, but he does play defense. He's cool. KCP is cool with coming off the bench, and that is something that you have to value. Some guys don't want that role. He is 100% okay with that role. So, but yeah, with KCP, I think the Lakers try to bring him back, definitely. What team do you think is going to sign Brandon Ingram? I think he comes back to New Orleans, but don't rule out the Knicks, who definitely are going to try to. They're going to try again to go after somebody, but I think he stays in New Orleans. But we'll see. He's signing with the Hornets. I'm not sure about that one. I think, like I said, I think it'll be the Knicks before the Hornets. You never rule out anybody has an open checkbook. You never rule it out. But do you think the Lakers can get CP3? I do think they can. I think they're going to go after Derrick Rose first, but I do think and Rondo. But I do think that is a thing. All right, let me try to catch up again on the comments. So if I skip some, I apologize, man. KCP is not only inconsistent, he's an idiot. Wow, those are harsh words, man. KCP is okay. KCP is okay. Here we go. We have the opposite thought. My guy Riley, KCP was a stud in the playoffs and the finals. I agree. I think that's a major reason why the Lakers are going to try to bring him back. Ingram back to the Lakers. That will be perfect for me. I don't think it happens. I think the Lakers have a better chance of getting Lonzo back than getting Brandon Ingram back. I think Ingram's going to get paid or he's going to come back, but I don't think that happened. Heard the Hawks are interested in KCP. I heard that rumor. I don't know how true that is to be, but having a guy who's a 3-and-D guy, a lot of teams will have interest in him. How much do they want to pay? That's always the question. KCP is a real Laker. We made him. KCP, I mean, the Lakers, when they got him from Detroit and they signed him, KCP was a big acquisition, especially that year. We thought KCP will be a little bit better of a more consistent, I guess is the best way to say it. 3-point shooter than what he's been. But I think Lakers fans had a love-hate relationship with him. So I agree with you. I think the Lakers want him to be back, and I think a lot of fans want him to be back. Simmons to the Warriors? Are we talking about Ben Simmons? I don't think Ben Simmons is going there. Do you see Ball returning to the Lakers in the future? I think it could happen, and I think he's open. I think Lonzo is truly open to it happening. I don't know. Anytime you make changes to your agents and you're kind of positioning yourself for that, it could happen. I don't know, man. It's too early to tell right now. What do you think about a Buddy Hield? I'm getting all my names mixed up. A Buddy Hield trade. I think he's gone. I don't think there's no, healing that relationship with Luke and him. And I think he's definitely gone. The question is who goes after him and what is his value. I think a lot of teams would like him, but how much do they offer? KCP's a French player, easily replaceable. I don't think easily replaceable. He's replaceable. I don't think he's easily replaceable. I don't think there's a bunch of them just lined up waiting to come. But I do think, you could get another guy. Carmelo Anthony is way better than those Lakers bench players, even before some of the starters besides AD, LeBron James. Who's better than Melo? Pope, Kuzma got the potential, but Melo does fit the Lakers. Melo fits the Lakers. I just don't think he's leaving Portland. I mean, I think he enjoyed playing there, and I think Portland enjoyed having him there. So I don't think that's happening. So the Lakers go after Carmelo Anthony. That basically just what I just said. I don't think it's going to happen. What trade do you want to see happen? I want in a perfect world, the Lakers go after Derrick Rose and not give up a lot. If that makes sense. Or a Gallinari trade. I would not mind that, honestly, for the Lakers either. Especially if AD is okay playing more of the 5. If AD is okay playing more of the 5, I would really love the Gallinari trade for the Lakers. I think that would be perfect for them. KCP is the best role player the Lakers have. I agree because he likes his role. He's okay with coming off the bench, sometimes starting, coming in just to play D, playing 10 minutes this game, playing 30 minutes the next game. That's why I do like KCP. As long as the Lakers pay him, I think that's what's going to happen. Let's see what else, guys. I appreciate all the comments, definitely, man. I appreciate it, man. Definitely, guys, subscribe if you're new. I definitely appreciate it. Also, leave this live stream a like, man. I am studying right now. Leave the live stream a like, man. Also helps me out. I definitely appreciate it, man. Lakers should go after George Hill. I think he's way down the list. But I can see your point. An offensive guy who could still play, he could score for you. He could come off the bench and do some things for you. But yeah, I think he's down the line of players Lakers are looking at. Danny Green's going to stay. Danny Green's going to stay at least till trade deadline. I don't think he has no true value right now. He's under contract. Nobody's going to want that money until trade deadline when he has an expiring deal. Then you can kind of finesse that a little bit. But I do agree with you on that one. With Danny Green at $15 million and re-signing both Rondo at $5 million, KCP 18 to 20 million, CP3 could work. I don't think KCP is going to get 18 to 20 million. I think KCP, to me, is going to get probably between that 12 to 14 range. I think that's where KCP kind of lands. But, yeah, I mean, the KCP could work as long as the Lakers are cool with hitting a little bit of luxury, which we've seen them do that in the past. I do think that will work. Let's see. A few more guys, then we'll definitely get out of here. We've been live for almost an hour, but we'll definitely go live again soon. Probably tomorrow. I think that could definitely happen. Do you want Kuzma traded? I mean, I'm not like just trading him for pennies. You know what I mean? I think if you could get a vet that could help you win for the next 2 to 3 years, you move Kuzma. if it's just another young guy or another fringe player, another role player, then you keep Kyle Kuzma. So I'm not just one of those guys that think you just trade him just cause, but I do think you move on if you could get the right guy. Definitely. What's up with the Victor Oladipo talk? He wants max money. I heard the Heat might not be as interested in Victor as they were before. So Victor Oladipo definitely got to watch out for. Here we go. Clippers should go after Van Fleet. He's much better fit than Pat Bev. I mean, they just paid Patrick Beverly. But yeah, a guy who could space the floor, play, make, and shoot, I would prefer over Patrick Beverly. But we'll see. I think the Knicks are going to make a run. Obviously, the Raptors will like him back. Van Fleet's going to have a lot of interest in free agency. KCP is the best role player. What about Caruso? Caruso, man, Lakers fans love Caruso. But I do think KCP is a great role player. He plays a role, but Caruso is right there with you. Lakers should build around LeBron, AD, Cousins, Rondo, Kuzma, and Caruso. I mean, if the Lakers don't make no trades, that what you just laid out there is the Lakers' foundation. If they don't make any moves, right? Because you go after Cousins, especially if Dwight goes to Golden State. You'll keep Kuzma, obviously, because you didn't trade for another guy. You still have Caruso under contract. Rondo will then come back. You would assume another 1-year deal. We'll figure out that point. But I 100% agree. Could the Lakers go after Devin Booker? I don't think that happens. I don't think that happens, especially how good Phoenix looked. I'm going to have another live stream about every other team, obviously. But after the Suns looked that good in the bubble, I don't think that happens, man. Feel bad for Knicks fans, failing free agency, failing the draft. They have bad luck. I'm obviously not a Knicks fan, so it's kind of funny to me at times, but I do feel for Knicks fans, man. They just want a good team, and it feels like that just eludes them at all costs. So we'll see what happens. Lockout soon. I think cap space will shrink a lot. I definitely do think cap space is going to shrink. Lockout in terms of, I think, and I heard Brian Windhorst talking about this, and I was going to make this in a separate video, and I still will. So expect that video. But yes, from what he was talking about, made a lot of sense about the NBA trying to, prolong the start as much as possible because they don't want another bubble situation. They don't want empty stadiums. They want to get that money back. So if they could get the majority, if not all of the arenas filled again, that's when they want to come back. They can't financially go through what they just did, or else the cap is going to be pretty much non-existent. But the cap space going down, which we're going to assume is going to happen this offseason, will help teams like the Lakers maybe get Anthony Davis for a few more years to kind of ensure it before it drops too much. But we'll see. We'll ultimately see what happens, man. Will John Wall return next season? I think with the extra prolong, we've seen John Wall back playing basketball, so I do think that happens. I want Lillard. If you're talking about the Lakers, that's not going to happen. I don't think Dame wants really to leave, and I don't think Portland trades him. I think they come back. They try to make some, get some new pieces here or there in the offseason. And I think that happens, man. So let's see. Maybe pull one or two more questions. Then we'll definitely get out of here, man. Lakers should keep the whole squad. Is not a question. Depends on what happens, though. Yeah. Here we go. Millsap or Covington on the Lakers. Have to think about that one. I like Paul Millsap, especially for his ability to space the floor still. I wouldn't mind that. I would not mind that. But once again, that is going to be based on how willing is AD to play the 5 more full time. We know he'll do it in playoff situations. We know he'll do it in certain lineups and certain games. But how willing is he to do that long term? Covington for sure, a 3D guy. I like that. So I'm cool with both, but with Millsap, you have to be cool with AD. Has to be cool with playing center. If he's cool with playing center, then I'm cool with that. Millsap sucked in the playoffs. A lot of guys didn't play that great in the bubble, man. But we knew how mentally taxing that was. No need for Millsap. Just keep Markieff. That's another option. That's definitely another option too. So. We'll see. Millsap getting paid $30 million. Yeah, you don't get Millsap at that price tag. It's talking about if he's bought out some way or somehow you get him cheaper in the future, then yeah. Christian Woods for Kuzma. I don't do that. Well, if you're the Lakers, you don't do that. Do not keep Markieff. Interesting take. Bill to the Lakers. Like I said, I don't think Washington is going to trade Bradley Beal. Are they trading AD? No, Lakers are not going to trade AD. They basically have a blank check with the max written on it, and he just fills in the amount of years that he wants. And I think that's basically their where they are right now. But the interest is there. Jordan Clarkson coming back. Lakers fans will love it. Once again, I just don't see it happening, man. Schroeder to the Lakers. I think that is an interesting one that could be discussed. I don't think it's high on the agenda right now, though. But I would not mind that. I would not mind that. And here we go. This will be the last one here. In your opinion, who do I believe is coming to LA? I'm hoping Derrick Rose, Gallinari. I think those are the two main guys. DeMarcus Cousins, I don't know if you call that coming here. He was just there before the Lakers released him. So I think those are really the main guys. I would not hate Chris Paul. I would not hate Chris Paul coming here, depending on what you have to give up for him, because of obviously how much he's going to get paid and his injury history, and he's getting up there in age. Those are kind of like the main things as to why. But Dennis Schroeder, that was something I never really paid too much attention to, but that is something that is definitely worth monitoring. And I think that is a sneaky great fit for the Lakers if they could somehow pull that one off also, man. But I appreciate everybody for coming through the live stream. I appreciate all the questions. Like I said, I'll be live again tomorrow. We'll talk about some other topics and more other teams. If you guys not subscribed to the channel, we talk about NBA all the time. We have videos, trying to live stream a lot more also. So I definitely appreciate you guys. If you would subscribe, leave this live a like, man. Helps me out a lot. And I will see you guys again in the video later today and on the live stream tomorrow. Peace.